Hello and welcome to the second webinar of the EUdatathon 2019. We are very pleased to welcome today Eurostat, and I hope this will be a very interesting webinar for you. This is the second webinar, and if you want to have a look at the other webinars, please go on our website. You also see all the timetables and the previous webinars. In the first webinar, we also described in more detail the rules and everything you need to know if you want to participate for the competition. So what is the competition? It's a competition for the reuse of open data, and we would like from you to reuse one of our data sets from the EU publication, from the EU Open Data Portal, and combine it with a different data set. And of course, it's difficult to find data sets in all these thousands of data sets. So that's the reason we want to do some webinars. And in this webinar, we will present you quite a lot of data sets which you can reuse and then use to submit an application. We have 3 different challenges, and today we will cover all challenges with data sets. So innovative ideas through EU Open Data, that's challenge number 1. Challenge 2 is new insight into economics and finance, and the third challenge is tackling climate change. Additionally, we will also tell you more about technical details, how to access the Eurostat data. Maybe the most important thing for you, the prizes. If you participate in one of those challenges, you can win up to 15,000 euro. And the most important date for you right now is the 24th of March, where you need to submit your project description. And for this, you can click on project registration, and you need to fill in some information. So now I would like to pass the floor to Eurostat.
Yes, hello. My name is Julia, and I work in the Eurostat dissemination unit dealing with the website content and with data visualization. So to start now, I will give you a brief overview of the waves of statistics available from Eurostat before my colleagues will look into some more specific aspects. Please note when you open the website that there are several ways we offer how you can access the information and statistics, which we will show you in the course of this webinar. One way is directly here on the Eurostat homepage via the box Statistics by Theme. See it here. However, in order for me to give you a better overview of the statistical topics available, we will use another way, which is here on the top via the top navigation bar, via the tab Data, and then Browse Statistics by Theme. So I will click here. So Eurostat statistics is divided into 9 different themes and a so-called 10th theme on top, which is the EU policy indicators. So I will concentrate on these 9 themes you have in the boxes here. I will briefly walk you through so you get an impression of which statistics are available, and I will point out a few example indicators, but by no means meaning to be exhaustive. So we have our theme 1 here, general and regional statistics, where you find data on subnational statistics, on regions, on cities, on rural areas, and so on, as well as on data on land cover. For example, if you want to know how many square kilometers of land is covered by buildings or by forest, you would find this information here. In addition, we have some information here on EU enlargement and European neighborhood countries. Then our second theme is the theme economy and finance, which my colleague Paul will look into in detail with you. It offers statistics, for example, on the GDP, on household income, prices, price levels. Down here we have the balance of payments, including direct investment statistics, but as I said, Paul will look at that with you in a bit. Then we have a very comprehensive theme on population and social condition, as you can already see from the long list here, which covers information to everything on population, for example, population by age, by sex, and by various other characteristics. We have data on immigration, emigration, asylum application, and decision or acquisition on citizenship. This is followed by health-related statistics, such as, for example, you have the number of hospital beds, causes of death, safety, health and safety at work. Education and training provides you information on financial aspects of education, but as well as statistics on enrollment, on teachers, language learning, and so on. While labor market, of course, you find your general information on the employment rate, unemployment rate, labor costs, job vacancies, and of course everything broken down in a very detailed manner by different characteristics. Furthermore, this section offers information on social inclusion and living conditions. An example here would be, for example, the poverty rate, income equality, or several housing conditions, so meaning people who, for example, can't afford to heat their house or have trouble paying for different household items. Furthermore, information on social protection, which includes social protection expenditure, for example, for unemployed, for old age, for families. Then you see there's another long list, which is, we have statistics, of course, for young people, on culture and on sports. We have statistics on crime, where you find crime rates, the number of the prison population. We have some indicators on quality of life, so meaning of the happiness and satisfaction of Europeans with certain aspects of their life and their overall living situation, followed by information on equality, which focuses on the topics of age, gender, and disability. So this doesn't mean to be exhaustive, covering everything on equality. It's just a collection of statistics which is available on this topic, as well as information on skills, so meaning skills needed for the labor market. So this is a combination of education and labor market statistics. So you see, this topic is really, it's a long list, and you will find a lot of information and a lot of indicators which are related to social conditions. The fourth theme here is dedicated, everything is dedicated to business statistics. The first topic, structural business statistics, here you can find annual indicators, for example, the number of small and medium-sized enterprises, gross value added, turnover, and everything is broken down by detailed sector of the economy. While the short-term business statistics present monthly or quarterly data, but only expressed as indexes or growth rate, for example, related on production, on turnover, or prices in the industry sectors. The topic on tourism provides you data on the number of hotels, the number of beds, the number of tourism trips, so everything you can think of people travel. While manufactured goods, you find a very detailed list on the quantity and value of goods produced, such as windscreen wipers, dogs and cats, foods, or furniture. This is followed by theme 5 on agriculture statistics, where we have information on the structure of farms, so the number of farm holders, the number of agriculture production, so crops production, animal production, as well as organic farming. Forestry, we have information on forest resources, removal, the production of wood products, and trade in wood products. And this is finished by fisheries, for example, statistics on fish catches by area, aquaculture production, and fishing fleet. Theme 6 is dedicated to trade, so international trade in goods as well as in services, which provides detailed information on imports and exports and the trade balance by product, so by type of goods or by type of services, and by detailed partner countries. So if you want to know the trade with the US or China or any other country, this detailed information is available. International Trade in Goods even provides monthly statistics. The topic number, or theme number 7, deals with transport and is divided into the 5 main types of transport, so air, inland waterway, rail, road, and sea. So for example, if you want to know the number of air passengers or the busiest airport or the number of cruise ships, this is the domain where you can find everything related to transport. Theme number 8, environment and energy. You find everything related, as it says, to environment, for example, everything on greenhouse gas emissions, environmental taxes, waste and water. So for example, if you want to know how much waste is produced by households or how many people are employed in the environmental sectors, you would typically go to this topic. While energy statistics look at the generation, supply and consumption of energy coming from different sources such as fossil fuels, renewables, and also covers the trade of energy products and the energy infrastructure. So the topic climate change will be looked at in more detail in a few minutes by my colleague Michael to give you more information on this. So finally, to come to an end, we have theme 9, which shows statistics on science, technology, and innovation. For example, the amount spent on R&D or people employed in high-tech industries. And everything you want to know about internet use, e-commerce, digital skills, the ICT sectors, you will find it in the digital economy and society. So this was a very brief and quick overview, but I hope you nevertheless found an entry point to Eurostat statistics. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there are different ways how you can access the data. One is, of course, via this site I just showed you. So now you would click on a topic and enter the website section dedicated to this topic. And then it does not only present you the pure statistics, but a lot of background information as well, such as on the methodology. So my colleague Michael will present you in a moment the topic on climate change in this way, so you will see more what is behind the different topics on these pages, how it's structured. However, if you're straight after the data and you don't want to bother with additional information, you can use the top level entry here in the navigation bar and go data and go via database. So I click here. You see we have a so-called data navigation tree where we have the database, and the folders below follow the 9 themes I just presented to you. So it's exactly the same structure as on the other overview page, but you're, however, in the database here and you get the straight statistics. Please note that our database is divided and we have the database by theme. So this covers detailed statistics where you can build your own tables, which I will show you in a minute quickly, as well as we have what we call tables by theme, which presents selected statistics. So it only presents certain indicators, so the most viewed or common indicators, and these tables cannot be changed, or you cannot modify them. You can only take them as they are and, for example, download them. While in the database, you can, of course, customize your selection. Before my colleague Chris will show you how you get data in an automated way, I will show you now how you can do it in a manual way, maybe to quickly just check what is available in a data set to see if this data set will be useful for you and your project. So for example, I will go to a data set on population. So I will drill down here in the folder, and you see the subtopics covered in this domain. So here, for example, I will take the first data set here. You see on mouse over, it already explains that this tool is called the Data Explorer, and this is what you will use in order to modify your selection. So I will open the dataset. The dataset that opens shows a random selection of the available indicator. But let's say, you know, I really want to customize and see what is available. So in order to do that, I go to the top heading and I click on the little plus here, which opens now the field where I can actually really work on the data and I can customize the selection. So let's say I'm just after data for the last 2 years. And then on top here, I have different tabs by which I can walk through the different things. In this data set, it's three tabs only. Sometimes it's up to 5 or 6, depending. And for example, I want to see only the population on 1st of January, the total. And if I go down to the bottom, we have the population as a percentage of EU28 population. So I take these 2 indicators in this case. As a country, maybe I just want to see 4 or 5 countries, so I select those. When I'm done with my selection, don't forget on the upper right-hand side here to update the current data set with your selection, otherwise it will not take it. Normally this should update the data set now. Okay, while we are waiting for it to update, I will already show you that you have the possibility when you're in such a data set, on top here, on the top hand right, you have additional information. You can enter metadata, you can download the data in an Excel format or CSV format to save it, for example. You can bookmark the table even, not just the table, but your current selection. And you also get what is available here, which is a dataset code, which you will need later on to use if you want to download data in an automated way. You should always note down the dataset code. So this is not all right. Yeah, so I hope we gave you a good overview of how you can access overall Eurostat statistics. And you got an overview of all the themes I presented. As I said, it's a wealth of information, so dig into the different topics to see what interests you. And I will pass on now to my colleague Maike, who will introduce you to the topic of climate change.
Hello everyone, my name is Maike and I work at Eurostat in the unit on environmental statistics, accounts and sustainable development. And among other tasks, I'm responsible for making climate change related statistics that are published by Eurostat more accessible. To provide a single access point to find the statistics on climate change, Eurostat put together a dedicated section that offers a good starting point to find relevant information on data on climate change. So to show you how to find this section, I prefer to first go back to the main page, because this will be your landing page most likely. You can, as Julia explained, go to data, browse statistics by theme, and when you click here, you get again the overview with all the different themes. As Julia explained, there are 9 different themes, of which one is environment and energy, and there is the link to the dedicated section, so the subsection of our website on climate change. As Julia also explained, this website, these dedicated sections, give you more information, more background on a certain subdomain of statistics. And I want to present this statistics, this dedicated section to you, because it might help you in the Datathon challenge in 2 different ways. First, it gives a quick access to specifically the statistics that you're interested in, and that might give you an idea about what is available. And second, it has content that might also just provide you some inspiration, some context of what you might focus on when you build your app. Now, in this dedicated section, the pane or panel on direct access to as its very first one here, database. So that's really your quick connection to the data on climate change. And when you click on that, you actually see a subset of the data tree that Julia also showed. And here you see the subset, of course, related to climate change. And in this folder on climate change, we brought together relevant statistics from different domains, such as the environmental domain, energy domain, social and economic statistics, because a wide range of information is potentially relevant for analyzing, understanding, and tackling climate change. So none of these statistics are just published here. These are statistics from all the different themes that we just saw, the different 9 themes, and they're rearranged so that you have a quick access point. So this is really your single entry point to these statistics. Now we organize these statistics, we reorganize them in folders that follow the main topical areas for climate change. The main one being greenhouse gas emissions, as they, of course, are the direct cause of climate change. So we have the first folder here, greenhouse gas emissions. And if we click on the plus, we can see the different subsets that we put together here. So different data sets. And as Julia said, you can click on the Data Explorer and you will see the data yourself. You can manipulate using the pluses and make selections. And I would also like to point out that here we have also quick access to related metadata for these data sets. So if you want to know more about how this data is compiled, what is behind it, which methodology is used, how often it's published, all this information is reported in the metadata. So you can click on this icon and it will open a page where it shows you all this information. In addition to greenhouse gas emissions, we also have a folder with drivers. And with drivers, we mean the human activities that cause emissions and thus climate change. So, for example, production and consumption of goods. As producing goods means quite often that you have to burn fossil fuels, for example. You have to drive your machines, you have to do your production processes, and this leads to emissions. So here we have listed statistics that are relevant for understanding these human activities, for tracking these human activities into different folders. So, of course, one of the main ones being energy. You can find the data sets that we think are most relevant in this domain here. Transport, industrial processes, product use, waste, agriculture, and land use. And these folders follow the greenhouse gas inventory report. So the official reporting format to the UNFCCC are also following these categories. So there's a direct link with that. We also have information and statistics on mitigation, so the reduction of emissions. One example for being solar collective surface, so renewable energy is a way of reducing emissions. We have impact and adaptation statistics, and there's information on climate action initiatives. So these folders show the most relevant statistics in each of these areas, but of course they do not show all statistics as they're published by Eurostat. So you can refer, as Julia showed you, to the full database, the full data navigation tree, if you want to find all the data sets in these specific domains. In addition, there are also, of course, statistics that are relevant that are not published by Eurostat. If they're not published by Eurostat, we can't show them in our data tree. We can't show them in our data sets. So to also provide you with some information on where to find additional statistics, we incorporated on the page a quick link to further statistics on climate change. This brings you to a page with links to other important publishers of statistics as well in European institutions. So back to the dedicated section. As I said, there is also a second way in which the dedicated section may help you in preparing for the challenge that you're about to venture on. And the second way is to find context, to brainstorm maybe about what you can focus on. So for that, we have several elements here. We have highlights listed. For example, there are visualizations that show different statistics and their trend over time for some selected indicators, where you can select some countries and have a look at what the trend is over the past years. So this is for greenhouse gas emissions, as you see here at the top. There are also other statistics that you can navigate by using the buttons down below. In addition, there is a Sankey diagram with energy flows. If you click on this, you will be taken to a separate page where you can really dig into and drill into the different energy flows. It's a very nice visualization to understand these statistics, these flows of energy. Back to the dedicated section, the second element here in the highlights is a link to a statistics explained article. We have a very large range of statistics explained articles that explain more about the statistics. So if you want to know and understand better what the statistics capture, what they represent, you can have a look at these articles, and they explain in more detail what you will find in specific data sets. And for the climate change topic, there's one on driving forces. So this really goes through, as I showed you, the folders with the driving forces. It looks at the changes in greenhouse gas emissions for the different subcategories and links these to statistics that we have on all of these. So this is, you can see just the headings. If you click on the plus, you will see the full article. Then back to the dedicated section again. One other part here, again, is the direct access to, not only direct access to the database, but also to some further information on data, some publications that we have, among which the statistics explained articles, but also, for example, the monitoring report on the Sustainable Development Goals, where Goal 13 is directly on climate change. So also that might give you more further context. A direct link to the full range of the statistics explained articles. We have a page with policy context and links to further information. So this brings me to the end of my quick tour of the Eurostat pages on climate change. I'm happy to take any questions you may have at the end of the webinar. And I hope that you pick this challenge on tackling climate change. And I wish you all the best of good luck. And now I give the floor to my colleague Paul. Thank you.
Okay, good day. My name is Paul. I work at the Directorate for Macroeconomic Statistics at Eurostat, and it's my task to get you started on Challenge 2, Economy and Finance. I will try to show you some interesting indicators, some key indicators on the economy that you can find on the Eurostat website. I will, because there's a large variety of statistics, focus on 3 key indicators. That is the gross domestic product, GDP, the government deficit, and the official European measure of inflation. So I'll take you from the database. I will start here from the navigation tree that was shown to you before. I will show you how you can find individual indicators in the database, but as already mentioned, my colleague Chris will also explain to you later how data can be downloaded more efficiently in bulk or automated. As was explained, we have the different themes of the statistics in the tree here, and one of them is economy and finance. So you find all economy and finance indicators close together in one theme. There are 7 domains in this theme, which represents a huge diversity of data. And as I said, I can only cover a few of that in the 10 minutes that I have. We'll find data on national accounts. National accounts is the main collection of data on GDP and beyond. So it's a coherent set of data on economic variables of in the economy of each country and from the European Union. Then there's data on government, on exchange rates, interest rates, prices, and balance of payments, which is in 2 blocks. First, I will go to the national accounts. And I will try to find annual GDP. By the way, it's important to note, maybe you have already spotted that every table, every element of the tree has a code. NA10 is for national accounts, NAMA10 for further breakdown. These codes are very helpful if you want to find data back. You can also, for example, use, if you know which data set you want to go to the search up here and type simply the code of the table. And it is also useful for producing hyperlinks, which can be shown. So the national accounts is NA10, and we could break it down into annual national accounts, quarterly national accounts, and a number of others. I will focus here on annual national accounts, which of course you will find data that have an annual frequency. You drill down, you'll find again several subfolders with data. And on top you find the one called main GDP aggregates. And from the term main you can derive that this contains the key indicators, the headline indicators that we use. So here now we reach the level where you can get the links, where you find the links to the data sets. So, and the first one is GDP and main components. So I'll click here on the Data Explorer. And this one opens by default with the GDP data in current prices. So you can find out here on the top, say, national accounts indicator is gross domestic product at market prices. And here you find unit of measure, is current prices in millions of euro. There are quite a large variety of units of measures for each variable as well. So you see the countries in the rows and the years in the columns. We can entirely customize, as already mentioned, this table by making selections. So once again, I'll show you. If you go here, you find the selection screen where all the different variables of the national accounts, or the main aggregates of national accounts, are included. So on the top we have gross domestic product, but another one of interest could be, for example, total consumption expenditure of households is another important aggregate. So let me select that one. I'll show you how that could work. This table has 4 dimensions. One is this variable. Then of course there's country. It's a large set of countries, not only member states, but also some outside the EU. Here's the time dimension, which are the different years, and the various units. This is, as I said, a long list of different units. It's also a bit too complicated to explain all in the time I have. So let's focus, for example, if you want to select one, you deselect them all, and for example take the percentage of the GDP. So we get consumption in terms of GDP. Click on update, and you find here for each of countries and years, the percentage. Another nice feature of the Data Explorer is the sorting button here. So if you want to see how they range, these percentages range from country to country, this is a nice way. You can see here that the countries of the Western Balkan, they have very high shares of consumption of GDP, whereas on the bottom you find Luxembourg, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, which have much lower share of consumption in GDP, as can be expected from economic theory. Let me go back to the tree. So this was the headline indicator, GDP, but it's an annual indicator, whereas our main indicator, our headline indicator, is actually quarterly GDP growth. And for that, I will not go all the way through the details, but you'll find it in the quarterly national accounts, again, main GDP aggregates and GDP and main components. When it says updated, there has been fresh new data added today. So second, now close the national accounts. We'll go to government statistics. Another important statistic is on government deficit. Maybe you are familiar with the so-called Maastricht criteria that says that any country's government deficit may not exceed more than 3% of GDP. And these data can be found here. You go under government statistics, then under government finance statistics, you break open, government deficit and debt, and then government deficit, surplus, debt, etc. And once again, you come to the Data Explorer, and again, you have immediately the data. In this case, you are looking for the percentage of GDP. So you can see, if you once again, I use the sort function. Country with the highest surplus in the government accounts is Malta with 3.5%, whereas on the bottom we see Spain, Portugal, Romania, France, Italy, with countries have the biggest deficits still. You can also select then the government debt, government consolidated gross debt is here as a percentage of GDP. This is also an important statistic for the Maastricht criteria. Then, finally, I'll go to the prices domain, where again there's a lot of different types of data. And I'll focus here on what is called the Harmonized Index of Consumer Prices, or the HICP, which is the official EU inflation statistics, and it's used by the ECB for monetary policy. So the HICP is also presented in many different ways, but the key indicators come from the monthly data annual rate of change. This shows how much prices have increased or decreased compared to the same month of a year ago. That's also the main policy indicator of the ECB. And here again you find then the data. There are early estimates of the January 2019, but final estimates for December 18. And next week, this column, month 1 2019 will be filled. This is a twice monthly update of these statistics. Another interesting thing could be for you to look at breakdowns of the inflation. Click again on the selection here of the classification of the different products and categories that we compile the inflation for. One is indeed the all items, HICP, that means the overall inflation number. But you can also look at price changes for food or for clothing. They are here, clothing and footwear, and various other indicators. So you can make go quite a lot of detail in finding inflation numbers. Okay, I think that is all for me, but I'm happy to also try to answer questions if I can. I'll give now the word to Chris.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm gonna quickly guide you through the more technical part of how you can download data, but before I start, I first want to wish all the people who are listening in, the ones who are in love and the ones who are still in love, a very, very happy Valentine's Day. So I think this evening you know what to do. So on the data itself, so this is a little bit more dull. What we have done, or what we make available for you to do, so that you can automatically include the data in your tools or in your visualizations, which you are about to make the conception. What we have is so-called web services. So where do you go? You go to database, and then you go to here, web services. Okay. We offer two sort of web services. One is based on SDMX, but I would not suggest you use that. I would suggest you use rather the JSON and the Unicode, the JSON web services, because it's much quicker. So here you find some information about the background. I will come back to that later. So if we go, how does it work? We first go to data, database, and then, as I already mentioned a few times, all our data sets, they have codes. So you first look the data set you're interested in. Let's go to population here, demography. So here we see if you select this data set, population change on the demographic balance, you see the code of the data set is always in brackets behind the title. So I'm going to copy this. I'll copy this. We go back to the page where we were with the web services, and here you see that there is a query builder. If we click on the query builder, in fact, what we've done is we make it easier for you to make a URL to fetch the data automatically. So the only thing you do is you paste here the code of the data set and you say next. It will automatically parse and look for all the different dimensions which are there, and then you can just create your query. So the first thing you can do on the time selection is the default, or you can say I want a fixed one. So you're just interested in certain years. So let's say I'm just interested in 99 and in 2000. Or you can also say since, and since means give me all the data starting from this year. Or you can say the third option, the fourth option in fact is for last. So give me the last X data points. So you could also say, for instance, give me the last 3 data points you have. But for this year, let's say we have a fixed, so we have 99 and 2000. The same for the geo selection. So what countries? Either it's a default, or you say, okay, I'm just interested in certain countries. So let's say we are interested here in Belgium, Bulgaria, and Switzerland. And then underneath, depending of course on the data set itself, it will give you all the available dimensions of the data sets, and you can then choose. So let's say here I'm interested in the average population, and then the rest I'm not going to go into detail. And then you just go here and you just say, okay, generate me this query, and then here you see the result. So in fact, what you have to do is you take the beginning of the URL here. So let me also copy that. I open a new tab here, paste it there. And then at the end of that URL, I just add this, the query which has just been generated. Control V. And there we are. So you see that this is now a JSON call, a web service call, which fetched the data dynamically from our database. Now, how can you treat that? How can you treat that in the programming? That's why I said I'm going to go back to the about this service. So here you see we are using the JSON format, and here for more information you just go to the JSON stat, which is the format we are using. on that page you will see there is tools here, tools, and then here everything is explained. So you have another link here, jasonstat.com, and here there are even videos, there are design principles, there are examples of how you can parse the answer from the web service within your code. So this should be relatively straightforward. We ourselves, with all the visualization tools you see on the website, we are using the web services in the JSON stat format so that the data is automatically updated live on the website. So I only have 5 minutes. I hope it was okay. So I think we go for questions now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank all the speakers. It was really interesting, and thanks for your time. We got a lot of questions in the private chat box, and I will read them and see who can answer it. So if people use their Eurostat data, do they need to cite your data in a way?
Yes, maybe we can quickly show you. You find on our website under the About Eurostat, if you click here, we have an entry about the copyright. We have a copyright notice here. All our data, you can use our data free of charge. However, we would like that you at least mention what it says here, Eurostat is indicated as the source of the data. However, all data is available for free, so no payment applies. But if you want to be totally legally sure, go to the About Eurostat and you find here the copyright notice.
Okay, great. I think that answers the question. Another question was, is there also data available which goes beyond the EU? I think you mentioned it a bit, but it might be...
Yes, I will answer this as well. It depends on the domain. You have to really drill down in the data set to see under the geo selection what is available. We have in general some data in the international cooperation domain here, which deal with the European neighborhood countries as well as with candidate countries. In all the other domains, you have to see which geo selection is available. Normally, we definitely cover the EFTA countries and often also candidate countries, but it really depends on the data collection.
Okay, thanks. So I think this question is quite difficult. How often gets the data updated? Because, if it's easy?
That's an easy one. So the data is always updated at 11 o'clock in the morning and at 23 hours in the evening. So always at 11 in the morning, 11 in the afternoon, in the evening. So that's very straightforward. The data under embargo, we have embargo data, that's always in the morning. It doesn't mean that all the data is updated, but if there is updates, it's always at 11 in the morning or 11 in the evening.
I don't know if the question was like this, then it's ready. Maybe the question was more how often the data set itself get updated with new data.
This is again, it depends on the data collection, on the indicator you're looking at. Normally, you will find this information in the metadata. So, for example, if I go here to national accounts where Paul was with the GDP, you see, as what Maike said, there's the metadata file here. In the metadata file, you have a lot of background information on the existing data, but you also, sorry for all the scrolling, you have a release policy and a release calendar and a frequency of dissemination. So here, for example, you see that the main GDP aggregates, and it even gives you the table code, are updated T plus 2 months, which means 2 months after the reference period. So if we're talking, monthly data, and this T would be January, it means March or April, or T plus 9 months. So you have this available for almost all information. In addition, when you open a data set, you have a little eye here, which is at the end. When you open this, it already tells you here the last update of the data. So you have these two information, but in order to really see when which data set would be updated, you would need to consult the metadata.
And for example, if we think of our teams and they want to use a certain data set, then they spend quite some time on it, and they want to use the app afterwards, how long will the data be available? Or is the data be deleted, or it will... Always. And it will always have the same URI, so... Okay, great. Another question was if we offer JSON. I think that's answered. And you would also say that's the preferred way to access the data. One question was, how can people link different Eurostat datasets? I could imagine the easiest way to link is via the countries, but maybe you have... For example, if we want to use different datasets from economics, and we want to put all of them together to have like a dashboard or something, how could people work on this?
Yeah. You would need to kind of select all the individual data sets and then use them, compile them into your product. There's no way we only offer data by topics, but not, for example, data by country. So if you want to use, for example, the GDP and the inflation, you would need to identify both data sets and use them together.
Maybe it would be useful to point out that the variables that are common to all the data sets are also coded in the same way. So that makes linking, of course, easier. But of course, countries and so on, but also some variables and units of measure, they are coded as much as possible in the same way. That may help linking tables.
And of course, the numbers are universal, but can they also access it in different languages, or?
The web services are in 3 languages. So on the URL, I don't know, let me show it. If we take the URL on the last one. So if we go back to the query here, you see in the URL here, it says EN. And as you can see, there is no short description. But if you take a table, there would also be a short description of the data set. And then if you change the language here, so it's available in German, in French, and in English. Okay, you see here it says now bilan démographique et taux brut. Whereas so it's in English, in French, and also in German. So you just have to change the language indicator here, and then you get it in 3 languages. Yeah, so it's the same. I mean, the website as such is also in 3 languages. So you can change the language up here. So it's in 3 languages. And maybe it's also nice if you have further questions. Maybe I don't know whether all the questions are, but if you have further questions, don't hesitate to use the help function on the website here. And just in the language you prefer, you can ask your question, and then we will of course answer them as quickly as possible. And
maybe this question goes also to you, Chris. Is there a way to download all the data in one go?
Yes. I didn't go there because I only had 5 minutes. But there is also a part of the website which is called here under data, which is bulk download. I always say this is the web service for dummies. So if you go here, we have all the data. You see here we have data, and then we have all the data sets, and they are in bulk in TSV format. They're in TSV or in SDMX. So here it's the same approach. The same approach. You have to know the data set code. So you see here the name of all the files. They start with the code .tsv. And then they're zipped, and then you can download them here. You see the size, and you see also the date when it has been last updated. If you download this, what you would also need to do is you would need to go to the dictionary files, which are located here under DIC. We also have them in 3 languages. I go to the English now. And here, these are the dictionary files of all the dimensions. So if you go in a data set, the dimension has also a code. And then if you take the code, .dic, you will find all the labels which are being used in that dictionary. So if I take this one, you see here all the different possibilities of coding for that dimension aggregate and the label. And so that is also something which we offer in the 3 languages. So if we go up level here, you can do it in German, in English, or in French. So that is in a nutshell.
Okay, great. And there was also a question for the visualization you show. I think you showed them. Is there a way to get also this JSON call? Because you mentioned that you use JSON calls to visualize them.
Yes, of course. I mean, that I would say on a if it's on a technical level, it's very easy to get a JSON call. You can just, with the browser technology, you can just see what REST call is being made, and then you have that call already. But basically, what it is just as I showed you, what we have done as well for the data that Maaike was presenting. We went into the data set, we selected the required dimensions. And then we just said, okay, create me the REST call, and then that is what we have included in the code.
What might be also of interest for our participants is the web service. How many calls can they make without getting kicked out or something? Because we had 2 years ago we had this problem that people really pushed our database to the limit, and just that they know how often they can update their data.
Well, okay. Luckily, it's not my responsibility. But in principle, since we are using it and it's completely scalable, so it should not be an issue.
And if they have problems with it, they can address.
Yeah. If there are problems, they can always open the help and then send the request to us, and we'll answer as quickly as possible. Okay. Maybe just one final question was about SDMX. Could you just say a few words what it is and if it's useful for the participants or not? Or? SDMX in a nutshell is the let's say the official format for exchange that Eurostat supports with a number of other international organizations like the OECD, the World Bank, and others, the ECB. And it's in fact mainly a format which is used to transmit data between 2 entities. Of course, we also supply it for general use, but we see this is not very heavily used because the format as such is quite heavy. And I would just simply suggest you, if you want to do a visualization, go for the JSON. It's very lightweight, as you've seen, whereas SDMX is, in order to get into the SDMX web service, the step-in is much higher, and it's much more complicated than just using the JSON web service. So I would, in the context of this exercise, I would not encourage you to go for the SDMX, because from a content perspective, they have the same data. But what you will probably only be interested in is in the figures, and not how the SDMX describes also the data in very much detail, and this is an overhead which is not necessary for the purpose of this exercise. Okay, great, thank you. That was the last question, and I see there are no more questions in the chat box. I would like to thank all of our colleagues from Eurostat, and the webinar will be made available tonight here, and you can click you through, of course. And what we forgot to tell you, you have also here some additional information for certain challenges. So if you're interested in one of them, please have a look. You can always contact us here and ask us questions. We can forward you to the experts from our partners. And so let's, I would say we finish, and thank you all for joining, and then, okay, see you, bye, thank you.